Ryerson. It is such a pleasure to meet you. How's your day been?
What? Good. I've already played tennis,
Ooh.
so I can't complain. Yeah, I'm very lucky. But some guys showed up to trim the trees in my backyard, and they didn't tell me they were coming. So I had to say, no, you cannot have your saws on from 1 to 2. So sorry. Other than that, my day's going good. Thank you.
So, good questions I have. So, one, I have been playing tennis for a long time. Are you an expert?
Yeah, I have. Well, my husband is a tennis player, and he's the one who really taught me. So I probably started when I got married. I was never really a great tennis player before that.
Oh.
And don't forget, what was it called? Title 19 started in 1973. That was women's sports in high school, where everybody got equal funding with the boys. So I really missed sports in high school, but I come from a very athletic family.
Wow. What other sports does your family play?
Well, my brother was a minor league baseball player.
Oh.
Yeah, for the Minnesota Twins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah,
So what's perfect tennis weather in Los Angeles?
Today is perfect tennis weather. It's like, it's about 75 degrees today. And it's weird because further inland from the ocean, because I'm under the Hollywood sign. I'm right under the Hollywood sign. Yeah. So if you go further inland, like Palm Springs, 106, it's we're not, but not here. Where are you guys again? You're in New York.
So I'm in Vermont, and Andrew, you're in.
I'm in Rochester, New York. So I'm upstate, and it's about the same weather here. So if this is tennis weather, I would play tennis.
Okay.
So no lie, and I saw the King Richard recently with Will Smith, when he the dad to Venus and Serena Williams, and I thought, you know what? I could do this. I know it sounds naive, but it's just, to me, tennis has always seemed like, just like ping pong on your feet.
You're right. You're right.
Oh,
And now paddle tennis is like halfway between ping pong and tennis. Because paddleball is really sweeping the nation right now. But it is, you are absolutely right. Ping pong, tennis, paddle tennis.
But it can't be as easy as I'm thinking in my head, because I like physicality. I'm pretty sure it.
I think you could too. It takes about a year to become a good tennis player, because just like baseball is counterintuitive, like the ball's coming at you this way and you're turning your shoulder that way towards where the ball's coming. Tennis is the same way. So it's kind of weird because you can't keep wanting to face forward, but you have to be sideways, in the preparation for the ball. You could definitely become a tennis player. You just have to devote some time to it.
Well, is there like it correct for example, like is it wise to start at 32 years old?
Makes no difference. Nope, makes no difference.
Okay.
There are people who start late in their lives and they become absolute fanatics. Because tennis, the only thing I say is always take lessons from a pro in the beginning to get the right form, because that prevents you from injuring yourself. And people who are tennis players, my husband is 81 and he's still playing. So you can play just golf, tennis, you can play a long time. Obviously, you can play baseball, not so much football. Basketball, like those things, but you have to have a whole group of people. So that's what makes that.
Interesting. Andrew, I think this is going to be a career besides podcasting for us. We should just become professional tennis players.
Professional tennis players? All right.
I love that. So, and I'm so glad that you're giving us an hour of your time here. And there's so many aspects of your career that I want to cover just looking at your DB. But first and foremost, Andrew and I, we got introduced to you, and maybe this is a terrible thing because of all the bigger credits that you had. We got introduced to you through the Family Matters appearance. Fun when playing Brooke Nash.
And what were you doing when you saw that show? How were you a child then?
So this was this in 1989 or 90 that episode aired?
89.
89.
Congratulations.
I wasn't even born yet. I was born in 1991 or 27. So
Oh,
just
okay.
a couple years before. I think you were like, what, 1 year old?
I was 1 year old when that episode came out, but it is an episode that has stuck with me throughout my entire childhood.
Yeah. I caught up with Family Matters through the reruns that aired at cable, like later into the 90s and 2000s and stuff like that. So I was a little bit late catching up on Family. But as to your role as Brooke Nash in season 1, episode 11, The Quilt, and this is where Laura Winslow, the middle child daughter, has a garage sale in the house, and she thinks she can just get away with selling her grandmother's special ancestry quilt for like $200. Judging by her grandmother's reaction, not the best idea. You're playing the
bad guy. I played the bad guy. Hey, let's be honest. I played the pirate.
That's arguable. That's arguable. Andrew might argue for that. I would think that you're just an adult who just came across a garage sale. You saw a great piece of art, and you thought, "Hey, let me pick it up and buy it for $5." But
Well, it's funny that I went when you guys told me you went, or John, when you said you were going to be talking about Family Matters. Just coincidentally, recently, my daughter's neighbor was talking about Family Matters, saying that was one of his favorite episodes, and he was freaked out that I was the person in it. And I do remember one thing about this. First of all, I thought Steve Urkel was a riot. Wasn't he on that show?
Yes, but this was literally the episode before his official debut on the show.
Interesting. Yeah. Because he didn't, was not in my episode, obviously, but I was a big fan of his. But, and in Family Matters, the show had been maybe of lighter topics until this one. And so when this one came, there's no doubt that when Laura talked to me in that show, I choked up.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When she gave me her plea with that.
Yes, toward the end.
I cried. Yeah. And so that was a big deal because they had not done anything maybe that heavy before, And that was a very moving episode, I think. It moved me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a very emotional episode. The plea that you're talking about, of course, is when she pleads for the clothes back, when she realizes what she did. And I definitely want to get to that. But to backtrack a little bit, how did you even get the role in the first place?
Well, just like you guys said, you weren't even born when I got that role in 1989. He was 1 year old. So I don't remember the audition. Certainly I can pull off being the owner of an art gallery. That is, or a gallery. I think I played it another time in a Stephanie Powers movie of the week. I can't remember the name of that movie, but that is something that was in my wheelhouse to do. So I don't remember the audition anymore. And one of the things that's so interesting about acting now is our auditions are completely different. They're all done by self-tape at home and sent in to a casting director. In the olden days, we were all in a room together, all of those who were up for the same role, and we would be waiting outside in this waiting room. They would call us in one by one to read behind a closed door with the casting director and usually the director, sometimes the script writer. And I don't remember the moment of auditioning. I really don't. I called those roles that I did helmet heads because they really puffed my hair out big, don't you think? My hair was it really did. They puffed it up and sprayed the bejesus out of it so that it became like a helmet. So I used to call those my helmet head roles because I was generally those characters were kind of inflexible and precise and not and saw things more in black and white. That's hard for me because I'm not really like that. I'm much more wishy-washy and I'm much more easily influenced. And I think that that's what I did in the show is that when she talked to me, like I said, I literally choked up and I didn't know I was going to choke up. It's not in the script. It's not something I planned. It just happened when she spoke to me. It choked me up. So,
and it was genuine. I loved it. I wanted to ask because I think the commentary that me and Andrew had from my end, I thought that it going from Laura and Carl casually asking for the quilt back to what I thought was a soap opera moment where Mark was in tears begging for the quilt back. I thought that transition was rather abrupt, but at the same time, the emotions coming from Kelly Williams, who played Laura, it was genuine emotions. I just didn't see it coming, and it was like a freight train. So I could see.
And also, she was playing off of me because I was choking up. So she got more emotional too. That's what happens in acting because she maybe didn't even plan it that way either. But when she started to talk to me and she's looking at my eyes and my eyes are starting to well up, she probably became more emotional too. That's obviously the beauty of acting.
So were all those emotions, were those written in the script or what?
No.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying.
Written in the script. No. Yeah, and I can also see somebody playing my role very, very differently. Because I haven't seen that episode for a long time, but wasn't it a cutaway? And then you come back to the fact that she has the quilt.
Yeah.
You don't actually see the moment, right?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you, because I think Andrew thought that there should have been a scene where you gave the quilt back or apologized for taking the quilt away. But how did you feel about that at the time? Did you?
Well, that's the way the script was written,
right.
And I think you first of all, from the moment of her asking me for it, you don't know what's going to happen in a certain way. I might have said, like I said earlier, a deal is a deal. And, I might have stuck to that position. You as the viewer don't know. And then there's a cutaway and she's got the quilt. So you know that she got it from me, right?
Right.
So in a certain way, we didn't need that scene because it would have been even more, as you said, soap opera-ish or more emotional. And that wasn't really the tone of the show. So I think I actually really loved the way it was structured. As an actor, of course, you don't have much choice in that sort of thing. You do what they ask you to do and you try to make it work the best you can. So I'm sure it never occurred to me that I might say, hey, I think you need another scene in there featuring me getting, get to do that when you're hired for a guest starring role, right?
Yeah. Now, going back to your point about you thinking that you played the villain, Andrew, I'm hoping you can jump in with the colonization that you brought up in our recap, because it was not something that I thought of until literally you brought that up. So, if you don't mind, go ahead.
Well, first, I cannot label you as the bad guy in the episode. I think bad guy or villain has a connotation to it where you were actively doing something to be bad. So I don't think it was that. But part of what we did talk about was the morality of the whole situation.
Yeah.
The morality felt icky to me the entire episode, where I'm like, okay, well, when do morals come into play here when we're talking about buying something so significant from a child? And I would love to hear what you thought about it, playing the role, and how it was in the scripting of the role. Was it meant to be that way where we got that impression, well, Laura's selling a quilt, and here's the funny side of it, but then we have this very big moral dilemma. Is this even okay to begin with?
Which is why I think that the episode was so wonderfully written. I mean, I just think it was perfectly written. And, like I said, when you're an actress fulfilling a role, you don't get to comment on those sorts of things. You play your role. My job was I go around to garage sales and house sales, and I try to buy things that I think, it's like, what do they have now? What's that called? Where they buy lockers full of
the storage stuff.
Thank you. Storage stuff, right? And they say they probably 9 out of 10, they make no money. Then on the 10th one, they're like, whoa, and in a certain way, probably the job that I had was like that. I go around and I try to find something that I think is really cool. And I thought, when you think about it as, as a buyer like that, you're honoring the person in a certain way also by saying, this is really cool and I would love to have this. I'll even give you a really good price. This is a cool thing. So probably initially one doesn't think of it as a moral dilemma because it's in the sale and I'm offering to buy it and she sells it to me. The moral dilemma comes in, of course, when she comes back and says it was a mistake and I'd like it back. That's when the gallery, I don't know if I was a gallery owner, I can't remember, but yes, well, it seems like it was my gallery, now that I think about it, has to really think about what's the right thing to do. And that's why I'm saying that a lot of times those kind of characters, especially played by, I'll just say, sometimes those characters are not moral. We're meant to really dislike them, right? I mean, but in this case, the woman did sell her give her the quilt back, and probably gave her, and they exchanged whatever money I'd given her. She gave it to me back, and I gave her the quilt, right? So everybody was happy. So it was really my moral dilemma once Laura had found out she'd done the wrong thing. And again, it was written in the script because I know that at the end she had the quilt. So it's not like I got to impose my Anne Ryerson will on the character. That was written. And I give the script writer again, I'm going to say, do you know his name? You guys seem to know a lot about
Who wrote that episode? Oh my goodness, I totally forgot. Do you remember, Andrew?
I don't remember, and I know it's in my notes, but that's like 4 notebooks ago.
Well,
it's been a minute since we capped that episode.
That's right. Think about it. Since the show was shot in 1989, it's been a minute since I played it. But I really just thought he did a great job. And later on, I did hear that it was by far his favorite episode. He just loved that episode. And writer loved. He was very happy with how it turned out.
Same with Reginald Johnson, who played Carl Winslow. He's actually for saying that the Quilt is his favorite episode as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was looking at it as simply like, Laura did something that she clearly was asked not to do by her grandmother, so she should face the consequences of her actions. I would have been fine if the quilt was returned because that's Laura learning a lesson. Maybe I'm just a little bit too hard on Laura. But I liked how you came from it, Andrew, from the point of view of, here is this, white woman taking this piece of African American ancestry and using it to enhance the value of her museum. I mean, it was kind of, cultural appropriation before we even learned that term. So there's just these deep layers in this quilt episode that I was really liking as we were talking more and more about it, that made me realize, like, oh, okay, this is why this is a great episode for a lot of people, because it's just, there's just a lot of meaning to it.
Well, and also I think what Laura did is something that we can all relate to, because she didn't know how valuable the quilt was in a certain way. She's young. Young people are not as aware of history and maybe value and significance. My mother, when I got married, which would be 1978, sold or gave away my brother's baseball card collection. His fault. She'd warned him many times to come and get it because they had to move their house. They had to change houses. And they moved from a house into an apartment, kind of condo or something, apartment. And he didn't. He had an original Mickey Mantle in there. He had a few other cards in there. And my mother got rid of them. She didn't know maybe how much they meant to my brother, but she did warn him several times, come and get them. So I think it's something we all can relate to, that you accidentally throw away something your partner loved or really wanted, and you thought it was trash and you threw it out. You know what I mean? It's something, it's very relatable that she did this. And I also think it was very brave of her to go into the gallery owner and make her pledge and her pitch that it was a mistake and she wanted it back. So, because like you said, Jon, we could have just said, that was your mistake, lesson learned, don't ever, but that isn't what happened.
Right. How was it working with? Because I think the only two actors from the show that you worked with are Kelly Williams as Laura and Reginald as Carl. Do you have any memories?
Well, Reginald, of course, Reginald is very wonderful to work with. And I have a feeling I worked with him on something else too. This is kind of funny and kind of not funny. But when I was telling my step aunt that I had just finished doing an episode on Family Matters and and I said it was an all black cast, and she said, "Oh, did you have to be black too?" Now that's funny, but it's not funny. I mean, I was pretty horrified. I said, no, there are fabulous black actors in Los Angeles. And if they need a black girl, they're going to cast a black actor.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that was one of the funniest things anybody's ever said to me. Did I have to play black? No. No, I was definitely a white girl in that episode. Right? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it helped that I could have been some other ethnic minority, but I think it really played right, especially for the time.
Yeah.
I can tell you the episode is amazing. It played very well. And just like you were saying before, every person I have talked to or have heard them reference Family Matters references this episode, especially if there's somebody who grew up my age or being a black child in a family. You learn like, hey, cut it out because this could be you. So it's big in that facet. Did you feel, or after you had the episode and it premiered, did you ever have anybody come up to you and start saying like, whoa, this was such an epic episode for me?
Well, I think I told you just recently one of my daughter's neighbors said it. So I can't wait to tell her about your podcast because the gentleman, I think it was a guy. Yeah. More so, don't forget, in those days, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, 4 channels. That was it. There was nothing else. And you didn't get to see reruns very often either.
Yeah.
So if you missed that episode, you missed it. Now you guys are seeing it on streaming or something. Yeah, or Hulu, right?
Yeah.
After many, many a year, but for many years, people couldn't see things. So, no, I was not swamped with people saying that. But I always loved that episode, and I always loved playing that part. That was fun. That was really fun. I enjoyed that. Yeah. But of course, the set was wonderful. The actors were terrific. I mean, I loved everything about it. But I would have to say, in my career, I've probably gotten the most fan mail for Private Benjamin, which is a TV series I was a part of from 1980 to 1983 or something. I was in that. I played a real jerk of a character.
Yeah.
I was very big with prisoners. Oh, they loved me.
Really?
I thought, who would like this jerk of a character? Miss Ryerson, we just love you. That's interesting. And the other one that I get so much fan mail for is Friday the 13th, Part 6.
Yes. Can you explain your role and what that movie was about?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, so those two, roles are what I've gotten the majority of fan mail about.
Right.
Not so much about Family Matters. It's more that the writer, I must have run into him at something, and he mentioned it to me. Obviously, they were very pleased with the episode. We knew that. You get that feeling. But I cannot say that, no, there was not much man on the street interaction about it. There was not much fan mail about it. Because, again, for networks, and if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to the audition process, because I used to be an actor, so I'm always curious about this.
Okay.
You had talked about self-taping auditions today versus having to do it in front of like all the important people, the casting directors and whatnot back in the day.
Yeah.
What do you prefer? Because I kind of see like pros and cons.
Well, I definitely prefer the old system.
Why?
I prefer it for for a couple of reasons. Number one, we actors got to know each other. So the other people up for the same role, they'd be out in the waiting room with me. I got to kind of see my competition. And when you went on enough roles, you began to know the people because they would, like Jane Lynch and I used to go against each other, years and years ago. And what?
For what roles? What roles did you guys go against for?
Oh, I don't remember because don't forget, for every TV role I did, I probably auditioned for 4 others, right? So you get, if you're lucky, you get 1 out of 5 on a TV, and on movies and movies or movie movies of the week, for example, probably similar thing, 1 out of 5. If you go up for commercials, which I did very few commercials, you go to about 50 auditions before you land a commercial. Yeah, you saw a lot of people over and over and over again. It was very social, and we really got to know each other well. I think I got the hiccups. Oh, well. I'll get better in a minute. Yeah, we got to know each other well. I think that was really a lovely thing. Now, obviously, for people who don't like to perform under pressure, they like to do the self-tapings because you can do it until you get it right. Right? But I actually don't do it at home. Many people do. They set up a little area of their house. They have the lighting, they have the background, and they self-tape themselves, and then they send it in. But I frequently go to somebody who has his or her, well, it happens to be his living room set up for this filming. They film me. The lighting is perfect. And we go until we get an audition I'm very happy with, and they send it in. So that means it costs me about $45 an audition. If I have only 10 auditions that year, that's $450. If you have 5 times that number, get 5 times that cost, which is why many actors, especially those who are really good technically, do it from their own home. But then you've got to get somebody to read the script with you if it's a part with somebody else in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you go to somebody's house and they do it for you, they read the role with you.
I can understand. I can understand the comfort of self-taping because often you're by yourself. Of course, you could go crazy and not really think about how many people's watching this. But I almost want the sort of like nerve-wracking adrenaline challenge of doing it in front of people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think I would want to get out of my comfort zone. So I like that old school concept. Just like
there's that too. Yeah. Yeah, I was more saying that I found the social aspect of the waiting room so fun.
Yeah.
Obviously, and when they see you in person, it's a whole different thing. Like, I'm sitting down right now, but I'm almost 6 feet tall. I'm a big person. If you saw me auditioning for that Family Matters role now, and you're only seeing my head, well, I would probably have to send a full body shot too. But you might not have gotten the impression as much of what I really look like. And then I come on the set and you go, whoa, you're big. Okay. I didn't anticipate that. So there's that surprise.
Not that height. So I've seen a few Getty images of you with Laura Winslow in the Family Matters episode, and I have noticed, like, oh, hey, this is a very nicely tall woman.
Yeah, I'm tall, which has probably kept me out of more roles in this house. Yeah, that's the way it goes. What can you say? If I was really, really short, I could probably say the same thing. I mean, there are times, every once in a while, it really works for you. But most of the time, it doesn't work for me, especially because if you're being paired with a husband or something, people still have the idea that the man should be taller than the woman, and so that probably hurt me sometimes, but it is what it is, no sense in my whining about it now because I feel like I've had a good career and, what can you say? There's advantages.
Is there a role that you sought out was very tall woman specific that you were like, oh yeah, I wish I had gotten that, or no?
Well, for example, I see the careers of tall women. Jane Lynch is a tall woman. And I'm thinking of, I want to say Jane Alexander, but that's not who I'm thinking of really. Well, I hate myself right now because I can't remember. Okay, I let myself in. But it was three different women who are quite tall, who are very successful. So one can't just blame it on, Nicole Kidman is quite tall too.
Yeah. Oh, especially when she was with Tom Cruise. Oh my God, that was like almost a child and an adult being married.
Well, I think she always wore heels though too. It's not.
I don't know.
She didn't try to be shorter. And nowadays, of course, it is much more acceptable in many ways that you don't have to look like the ideal that people had 50 years ago. I come from height on my mother's side and not so much on my father's side. But on my mother's side, her sister was almost 6'3". And this was in the days a long time ago, where it was much more unusual. But her husband was 5'10". And I never saw a happier marriage. They were so in love with each other. It was crazy. And then my mother's other sister was 6 feet, and her husband was about 5'9" or 10. So I did not have as strong an idea in my head that, a man has to be taller than the woman. It is that way unless you want to go for comedy. Definitely, I've had, small husbands because it was funny for the show.
What? Give me some examples. What roles what was your height beneficial?
I'm more thinking of photo modeling things that I did. I was a photo model first. Then I started doing commercials second. I think I probably did both for radio.
Yeah.
It was radio work in Chicago because I worked in Chicago for 10 years. Yeah. And then I came out here. But, I can think of several occasions where I had smaller husbands.
Where did acting come into your life, and what's your backstory?
I should ask you about podcasting and that. But
Absolutely, that could be another episode. I don't mind.
From the time I was very young, I could mimic people. If I was in the room with you for a while and you left, I pretty much could do you. I could play. I could embody you, and speak as you. It was just something I did from the time I was very, very young. Used to make my mom laugh real hard, because it was a mimicking ability I had. I think later on, when I was a young girl, I had a very strong interest in people. If I saw you two guys sitting on a bench in Minneapolis, which is where I spent most of my youth, I spent my youth growing up there. I took the bus a lot in those days. I would sometimes look at people while I was on the bus, and they'd be at the bus stop, and I'd think, where are they going? Why is she sitting like that? What's going on? I was interested in what made people tick.
Yeah.
And what their lives were like. I later became a journalism major at Northwestern University, which is kind of interviewing people too. It's an interest in people. I think I've always had an interest in people. Some people, like my grandson, he's got an interest in engineering. He's got a very engineering mind. Don't you think part of it is what you're born with? You tend to we all have some tendencies and interests in certain areas.
Yeah, I think based on acting education, if you have a great sense of, or a great love for observing other people, I love observing other people. If you have curiosity, certainly if you have a really expensive imagination, and yeah, there are certain qualities where you think that could make a fantastic actor. And obviously, you've been doing very well at it.
Well, yeah, I'm lucky because I have a husband. Because everyone, when I first came to LA from Chicago, in Chicago I worked all the time, and I came out here and it was just a new ball game. And so there were a couple lean years, there's no doubt about it. And then I was lucky I had a husband. But and many people can't take the rejection of auditions, and you go on them, and they just cannot take it. I get that. I love to be on set so much. It's so much fun to work. I do love to work. I love being in the trailer. I love going for the snacks and the little snacks. I love everything about it. I love being with other actors. And like I said, because we're much more isolated now with this new audition process, you get to hang out on the set with other actors. That's fun too.
So is the self-tape thing, is that just because of COVID still, or is it just easier to self-tape people?
You know what? It started out before COVID, definitely several years before COVID. Before, if you think about it, if you're a director and you got a movie and you hire a casting director, that casting director goes through hundreds of headshots. Now they go do it on their computer, and they show the director, and the director might say, you know what, call in your top 20 people. and we'll audition them. And then they rent a room. They have a camera, have somebody running the camera, and the casting director reads with you. They absorbed all the cost. Cheaper for them not to do that, right? Though I would think they still have to have a casting director because she or he makes the choice about who to call in. And I used to feel pretty proud that out of 20 people in Hollywood, I was called in for a lot of auditions. I was, you have to be happy even just to have an audition, a chance, because not everybody had a chance.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I have, I want to know whatever you can remember out of these roles that stuck out to me on your credit list. Because I don't know if you had a chance to look at our credit list, Andrew. It's insane. So, what can you remember about Caddyshack? You played friends.
Well, Caddyshack was written by my friends from the Second City. Harold Ramis, Murray, Brian Doyle Murray, excuse me.
Brian, Bill's brother.
Yeah, and also Doug Kenny. So they created.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I think Doug Kenny, didn't he create the National Lampoon?
Yeah, he worked for the National Lampoon magazine. He worked there. But before Caddyshack was Animal House.
Yeah.
And Harold Ramis, Doug Kenny, I believe it was Chris Miller, wrote Animal House. I recall Harold telling me, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think so, that they got $10,000 for that script, which they split between the three of them.
Wow.
And that movie was a really big hit.
It was.
And they were my friends. I mean, Doug Kenny and Harold Ramis were my friends. And they really wanted to make a movie with me. God bless them. And so when Caddyshack came around, they just wanted me to be a part of it, and they offered me the part of Grace. I was 30 years old at the time, playing an 18-year-old caddy. And frankly, the one thing I really had to do was do a swan dive over the high dive. I just didn't do it. I was so scared to do that swan dive. Oh my God. The idea of diving off a high dive head first just horrifies me. So I did this kind of crazy thing in the air, and it looked like a dog that had been dropped from the board or something. But I didn't have to audition, for example, for Caddyshack because they were my friends. Yeah. Yeah, I also didn't have the world's biggest part in it, but I was down there for I want to say 6.5 weeks. So I was paid for 6.5 weeks. And of course, in those days, your residuals are based on your weekly, on how much money you earned during the movie. So I still get Caddyshack residuals.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Although I also was hired as a writer to write a female version of Animal House. And my friend Shelley Long and myself and Stephen Campman and Peter Torkove, who worked mainly on WKRP in Cincinnati, the four of us worked on this female version of Animal House for quite a while. So I feel...
What happened?
Well, it didn't end up getting made. I have to tell you, it's still a pretty darn funny script we got. Pretty darn funny. It didn't end up getting made, but William Morris was our agent for it at the time. It was really fun. So that was between Animal House and Caddyshack. So like I said, I kind of knew those guys. I knew them from Second City. I adored them and loved them, and that's how I got into Caddyshack. And Bill Murray I knew because he and I had been in the Second City together.
Yeah. Okay. So you are in 3 of my all-time favorite television shows. I had no idea that you were Nan Funkhauser in Curb Your Enthusiasm. I mean, I watched almost the entire series, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's where I saw Ann before I saw this Family Matters episode. What was that experience like?
Well, obviously, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David is a genius.
Yeah, he's great.
He is a genius. So is his kind of sidekick, Larry Charles.
Yeah.
I don't hear much about Larry Charles, but Larry Charles is just an utter genius, too. And the writing staff that they have, just amazing people. They are funny. They would So again, this is a situation where I didn't have to audition because they knew me, and which is good and bad. I didn't have a specific part, like a masseuse. I was Funkhauser's wife. And don't forget, there's no scripts when you work on that show. I'm talking.
Yeah, it's on improvised.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
Well,
seen it, Andrew?
I
I-
haven't, and I need to. I did not realize that it's all improvised. Now I'm even more interested.
So the storyline is scripted. Like usually going into a scene, and you can speak to this, and like Larry or whoever will say, "Okay, this is the situation that's happening. Now go." And like
Yeah.
specific lines, they're all improvised.
yeah. There's 10 episodes per year in general, and he has story arcs. It like maybe Larry and his neighbor are having a feud, and that arc will carry over into the first 3 episodes, culminating with the neighbor killing Larry's dog or something. I'm just making that up. And and then there'll be some other part of the show that's has got another arc, and maybe that goes on for 6 episodes. So Larry, they know what the arc is. They don't know what the arc is. When I first came into it, I had no idea. None, zero. And they don't tell you much either. They just say you're going to be at a dinner party. Oh, okay. Yeah. Especially the first time I did it, I didn't know how much to talk and how much not to talk. Later on, I realized, and it was pointed out to me, that the real meat of the scene was between Larry and my husband. And I had to be careful not to interfere with their rhythm because they had their thing going. Bob would do these really long burn takes at Larry. And so one has to be careful not to upstage them, not to take too much focus, that sort of thing. That being said, I really had no idea ever what was going to happen or where it was going. I really didn't. I'm not joking that you're on a roller coaster and you don't know where it's leading.
I think you had mentioned you had some Second City experience, which is
yeah. I did 2,000 live improv shows.
Yeah.
2,000. I started with Dudley Riggs Brave New Workshop in Minneapolis. We did 9 shows a week because we did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We did 2 shows on Friday and 3 shows on Saturday and 1 show on Sunday. We had Monday off. So I did 9 shows a week for 9 months with Dudley Riggs. Then I got cast in the Second City, and I did 8 shows a week for 2.5 years. Then after that, I did more improv. I was with Sills and Company, and I've done a lot of improv. So I'm very comfortable with not having a script. I'm okay with that. I think though, had I known in Curb Your Enthusiasm, this is an interesting thought, but had I known I was going to be talking so little in it, because as it turns out, I really couldn't talk too much. I think I would have made my character an alcoholic. It would have been my own private backstory. It would have explained to me and maybe to the audience why I didn't talk too much, and maybe even my unconfidence in myself to speak up in situations. I generally do a very big backstory for my characters now. I didn't when I was young, but I learned that maybe at around age 50 or something, or maybe at 40. I do a really big backstory on my characters. How many brothers and sisters, where I grew up, my relationship with my mother, my relationship with my siblings. I do a whole big thing. For for Curb Your Enthusiasm, I didn't do that because I didn't know what I was doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until much later that I thought, oh my God. And I finally did a really big backstory right before the final episode. And it was really, my final episode. It was interesting how much confidence it gave me to have written out that backstory. When I walked in the door, I knew who I was. And I can see my lack of being grounded in the first episodes. I can see it. So it was a unique experience for me. But I cannot say enough good things about Larry David. And Jeff Garlin, too, was absolutely terrific.
I love that. You played a Chief Justice in The West Wing. I've watched The West Wing maybe 2 or 3 times, beginning to end. I don't know if you've watched that as well, Andrew.
I haven't seen The West Wing either, so now I have another thing to watch.
Okay, I can find it.
You have a busy summer, Andrew.
Yeah, right. So how was it in The West Wing? How was that?
Well, again, this is another interesting story that you don't find out about until later. I had fun being the Chief Justice and administering the oath to Jimmy Smits because he was the president at the time. And I had a ball on that set with the guys who were playing my Secret Service agent. They were playing Secret Service agents, and Kevmo he sang the national anthem on that show, and he was so much fun to hang out with. Oh my God, he's so talented. And so I had just a ball filming that. Then when I saw it on TV, I was like, oh my God, they never showed my face really.
Oh,
And that's when I learned that Glenn Close had been cast as the Chief Justice in that series early on. And so I think you weren't supposed to know if it was Glenn Close or somebody else. Because think about it, a woman Chief Justice of the Supreme Court,
yeah.
never been done. Yeah, I mean, being the Chief Justice, there's never been a woman Chief Justice yet, the head of it, right? So I saw and then figured it out and found out that it was because Glenn Close had played that character earlier, and they wanted to make it ambiguous. So that was kind of funny, but still, I had a ball. So
That's good. Yeah,
So
now I'm remembering Glenn Close, she did play some controversial Supreme Court Justice nominee earlier in the series, so that just is bringing back memories. How about Mad Men? You played Elsa in an episode of Mad Men. What was that experience like?
Well, that one was an interesting experience, and that I have to tell you that the script led one to believe that she was really that character was really a bitch. I have to tell you, my character, and I did a really big background on that one, and I chose not to play her that way, like that. I chose to play her as somebody who loved politics, who wanted to go further in politics herself, and so I played her a different way than a lot of people who auditioned. I saw the people that my friends were right there. We're all being called in one by one and auditioning. I auditioned with me and against me. I wasn't surprised I got that. They were very, very happy in the room. You can tell when you go in and they really like what you've done. When I got cast at that, I wasn't 100% surprised, but I was 100% delighted. It was really a fun show to work on again. Just a fantastic atmosphere. And of course, everything, all your undergarments and everything are completely period. Garter belt with old-fashioned nylons, holding up your stockings, the pointy bra. Everything is done completely period, all the clothes. And so that was fun. And I do recall that I came in at around noon. The other but yeah, and I was done by about 3:30, so that one only took about a half a day to really film, and we really whipped through it, and which makes the producers very happy. They like when things move fast. They save money when that happens. But when I first went on that show, see, I used to be a blonde in my younger days. They said, but the lead girl, the woman in Mad Men, was blonde.
Yeah.
So they said, would you mind if we darkened your hair with this temporary, it's like a mousse? And I said, oh, go ahead. And so they darkened my hair. And it was really a dark brown. I was quite stunned. And it didn't wash up, by the way, for 2 months.
Oh.
Forget it. And then, by the way, about 5 years ago, I decided to grow out my natural color. And this is my natural color, which is brown, which, considering my age, I thought it would be more gray. But yeah, so this is kind of more the color that it was almost in Mad Men, right? It was a brown. The way my hair looks is not great. I'm just going to comb it for I do not like the way my hair looks. Okay, there we go. But but most jobs are a pleasure to work on. You have to know your stuff, and you got to be confident once you go in there, unless you're playing a very unconfident character. But every once in a while, there are jobs that are unpleasant for various reasons. And I actually prefer not to talk about those because I know it's for bad juju.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? What's the point of it? How's that going to help anybody now? But you will, if you have a long enough acting career, you will run into situations where it's uncomfortable on set, unpleasant on set, where the person who's setting the tone for the set, which is usually the director and or the star, where one or the other of them is a jerk for one reason or another. That's the best way to put it. And it can be really, really rough to do your work when you're working under those conditions. But you just got to do the best you can and move on.
Have you seen Minority Report? In
Yes, I've seen Minority Report 42 times. And very good movie.
yeah, you were Dr. Catherine James. How was that?
I was a dream catcher. Yeah, I mean, dream verifier. You know what was funny about that one? My agent called me and said they'd like you to audition for this Steven Spielberg directed movie, Minority Report, and it's 2 scenes. She sent me the script. It usually comes by email, by the way, and I print it out. And honestly, it had like 6 words. I'm like, 2 scenes? Wait a minute, what? There was honestly about 6 words. 3 words in one scene and 3 in it. Like, wait a minute, what am I seeing there? That's what. But because you had to it was like a puzzle figuring out what was the woman doing. And I was pretty happy that I could figure out what was going on. And so on the actual set, I was in hair and makeup chair, and in came Tom Cruise, and he sat down on the chair next to me. And immediately, the music level went way, way up. He likes music to be loud and I think for a couple of things. So he doesn't have to engage in small conversation at the time because he's really got 8 million lines he's trying to learn. And I said, I think I asked him, the makeup person, who's this music by? And he holds the CD up to me, and I went, oh, it's really great. And then later on, walked by and massaged my shoulders. It was very nice to me. And then later on, I said, hi, Tom, I'm Ann Ryer. He said, I know who you are, because he helps choose. You know what I mean? I think was he one of the producers on that?
He must have been.
Yeah, he must have, because he helped cast me too.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this. I'm told Tom Cruise, I've seen countless stories of him being a hard worker, making sure that time and everything is being used efficiently on set. Was that
he works very hard, and he was very hard on himself. When he goofed his lines up, he had I'm not exaggerating. He had line after line after line after line. He's got to be moving stuff and talking and blah, blah, blah. And if he made a mistake, he would be so mad at himself. It's like, hey, not Tom. That's hard stuff you're doing there, right? I mean, he was hard on himself. Yeah. The gentleman that I was doing my scene with, the older gentleman who was also a dream verifier, he and I were dream verifiers, but he had hearing aids, and it was hard for him because we had things in our ears where we could hear the lines. And then we each had our own camera, so we were visually cued as if we were watching a screen like this. And then we're saying, wait a second, what am I seeing there? We're reacting to what we're seeing. But he and I each had our own camera, and we were being cued through our ears. But he had hearing aids, and it was really hard for him. So I said, can't you just visually cue him? That they were trying. Anyway, they ended up giving me one of his lines, so I had a little bigger part than instead of only 6 words, I think I had 10.
There you go. Extra money in your pocket. Andrew, any questions?
So I do have to ask you, Friday the 13th, it is one of my favorite horror franchises. I am obsessed with it. I've watched every single one every year on Friday the 13th.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Oh, I am addicted. It's one of my favorite slasher movies. How was it being on that set? What was it like being a part of the movie?
That was fun. That was fun. But, I didn't even know what I was getting into. I don't watch slasher movies. So again, my agent called and said, I'm not sure you're interested in this, but there's this, and I wasn't working at the time. I said, well, let me take a look at it. And she kind of explained about it. And I said, well, let me at least try it, whatever. Somehow I didn't see the script until I was at the place auditioning. Then I saw the script and I said, I have to die. How am I going to die? And I asked this in the room while I was auditioning. They said, it's a triple beheading. I went, oh, okay. That's fine. I'll do a triple beheading. I don't like slow deaths on screen for myself. Triple beheading. Yeah, that'll be fun. No problem. So the director, Tom McLaughlin, wanted to lead off filming the movie with myself and the guys doing the paintballing scene because we were older and we were pros. And he wanted to be on schedule or ahead of schedule because this is I believe it was the first movie he directed. And he wanted to, be ahead or, he didn't want to be behind. He wanted to, so he got us to do the first scenes. We came down before the movie ever started. We came a day early, rented a car, followed Sherman's March to the Sea. Oh, by the way, I should say it was shot outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah. So we had, the guys and I had a ball. What's weird is they had to make a complete body mold of us to do the triple beheading because Jason jumps out at us and we go, ah, right? And then you see him with the machete and then he chops all of our heads off. I can see Andrew nodding yes.
So I have to tell you, not only is that one of my favorite death scenes in Friday the 13th, because I think it was done really well, but I've been to the set where the movie's been filmed a couple of times. I've seen everything. So just hearing from you right now, I'm like fangirling a little bit.
Well, yeah. So by the way, when they first did the cut of the movie, I know this, they had a slow motion of our heads falling and then hitting the ground and rolling. The censors didn't like that. So they cut that out and did it normal speed, and they really didn't show very much for all the work they did making our body molds. Honest to God, here we were on the screen this much, boom. For that, believe me, it was thousands of dollars because here in LA, they made body molds of us all. And I had to go to a studio, unair conditioned, by the way, in a leotard, sleeveless leotard. And they started wrapping plaster around my body. And you're lying in something, it's like a cross. You feel like you're lying on the cross. And they're starting to wrap plaster everywhere on the front of you, but you can kind of lean against this board. And then they kind of start doing it from the back too. And you get enough plaster to hold you kind of where you're, and so they do complete body mold up to here. But it was so hot in that studio that I fainted. Yeah, while I was in this thing, I was like, oh my God, I'm feeling and they flipped out. Oh my God. They're like, oh my God, that really freaked them out. So I come to, and I'm completely encased in plaster on this cross, kind of like your first thought, what the hell? But that was weird. But then we had to stick our hands in a bucket of goop and let it harden just for a few seconds. We'll try to pull your hand out. So they made replicas of our hands. But the hardest part was making the replica of our head because they put straws up your nose, tiny little ones. This was a long time ago. And then they start encasing you in plaster. They start with your ears, so you can't hear anything. You have to have your eyes closed. You start covering your eyes. Your mouth has to be closed. You're only breathing through these teeny straws. And about 28 minutes in, I started to get claustrophobic because I felt like they were putting such heavy weight on my nose, because they're putting plaster strips everywhere. I felt like they were compressing those straws. There was no other way to breathe. So I was like, because you can't talk. Yeah. And so they just went as fast as they could. They said they finished the whole thing in 31 minutes, which was kind of a record for them at the time. But, later on, that same man made a model of my head for the movie Constantine. And said, this time I'm putting a kazoo in my mouth so that I have additional way to breathe.
That's smart.
Yeah. But so that was a unique experience, and then we had a complete body mold. We went to Atlanta, stayed in Atlanta, filmed there. Everything about that was a ball.
Yeah. And just for a listener who may not know, you are Katie and I believe Friday the 13th part 6.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh. We were a paintballing group, and it was supposed to be kind of a corporate thing where like we went on a retreat to bond, and meanwhile I was shooting the Jesus out of them, and I'm like, yes, and they're like bummed out that I'm all right, that I'm the winner.
Oh my God. Anything else for Andrew?
I could go on the Constantine rant as well, but there's just so much. Thank you for just letting me fangirl for a minute. To be able to talk to you has been so amazing.
Oh, you're so sweet. I feel like I should be asking you guys many more questions.
Yeah, oh, please. I
mean, like how did you start doing podcasting, and who's your podcasting audience?
That's a very loaded question, but a good question nonetheless. So, I think the first one you asked was, when did we start doing podcasting? Is that what you said? So yeah. I got into it in 2020. When did you get into it?
I started in 2019 at the end of it, going into 2020. And for me, it was just working on a mental health journey. It was literally just me getting behind a microphone, reading my journal entries. And then a friend of mine said, you should put this out so people can hear this.
What a smart thing to do.
Yeah, lifestyle of a gay Black boy. So you can listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. And originally, I did a podcast that was more like my radio work. I used to work in radio, so I was the guy making stupid jokes in between songs. So I used to have a podcast that had like a radio morning show content like energy, and Andrew was a co-host of that. That's how we met, and it just eventually transformed into us rewatching one of our favorite TV shows of all time, Family Matters, and talking to numerous cast and crew such as yourself about their experiences. So that's how we got to here 4 years later.
Wow, really? So you guys really bonded almost over Family Matters. That was a real big focus of yours?
Yeah. I mean, originally, we just bonded over the old version of this podcast. We're more like a radio morning show, so we just bonded over a lot of life's topics. But once we found out over the course of time that we both like Family Matters, we were like, we should do a podcast about this.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. So, for anybody listening to this who wants to keep in touch with you and to see what you're up to these days, how can they find you?
Well, probably Facebook is the best way. I'm Ann Ryerson on Facebook. That's not my married name. I'm not somebody who posts very often. Probably is the best way, because somebody can always instant message me too. That's what you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
To respond. Yeah.
Right. I think that is the best way. I don't have a website. I've been working on my husband's website. My husband's an artist, and I've been working on cataloging his work.
What's your husband's name?
It's davidwhitehall.com. And anyway, so I've been working on his website. I don't have a website. There really is no way to follow me. There you go.
That's okay. You are the rare specimen nowadays that value their privacy, and I love that. So Facebook is the best way to reach you for anybody who wants to keep up with what you're doing. Ann Ryerson, ANNRYERSON.
That's correct.
Love that. Well, and it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And let's keep in touch. We'll obviously let you know when this episode gets released.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, because I got to tell that neighbor of my daughters.
Okay. Well,
thank you for having an interest enough to approach me about this. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Take care. Hope you have a great day. Hopefully more justice is in store for you today.
No, not today. A nap is in store for me. Yeah.
I get it.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How was that?
That was really good. I am surprised they kept it together. because I'm not joking, John. Friday the 13th is one of my favorite fucking movie franchises. I am obsessed.
So you've watched Minority Report 42 times and Friday the 13th Part 6 how many times?
I've watched Minority Report 42 times, and I know that number exactly because I keep track of watching the movie because I love it that much. Friday the 13th, and this is including all of them, I've met a few of the cast members. I've gone to the sets. I've got collectibles. I've got toys. I've got specific merchandise. I took things from the set, and y'all can't sue me because that's public land. But I took stuff from the set. I even have a vial of water from the lake. I have it all. And I've seen at least all of them, I would say about 70 to 80 times.
So you know back and forth what Anne was involved with in each of those movies.
The whole time she could have just been like, you know what happened. And I would have just been like, yep, I already know. Already know. Because I've seen it that many times. And I knew when she was talking about the special effects, I'm like, I've been through that plastering process. So I know how it feels. But I didn't realize that they made all these other casts that we really don't get to see much of it in the movie.
Yeah. So those stolen collectibles, have you ever thought about selling them, or are you just like, no, those are mine forever?
No, in my will, they'll be left to either my niece and nephews or my grandchildren or children if I have them. And I'm like, look, you do what you want to do with this. But this is a collectible. I have something from down in the mines where Day of the Dead was filmed at. And it is a collectible. And if you want it from me, I will sell it to you for $100,000. But it's something rare that you cannot get. So there's things like that I love.
Especially since we have our Patreon, we should do a special episode. It's like one of those AM radio garage sale trade shows. We should just do an hour of you saying, hey, $100,000 for this bottle of water. Come on now. Come on. 75, 75, 25, 25.
This water has claimed the lives of many teenage campers. Come on now.
You claim it before Jesus claimed you. Anywho, because I know you gotta go soon. How about you sign us off of this beautifully delicious episode?
This was a great one. And I was thinking about this today. This will not make sense to a majority of the people listening. But when you have something delicious that's new and it's great, and times we need some new delicious stuff in our lives. So I'm going to let that deliciousness ring.